Hey everybody, just want to make a quick video on Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is the former fighter, Ultimate Fighter. He's also got his own podcast, which is a pretty popular podcast where he talks about conspiracies and stuff. However, I've noticed that Joe Rogan appears to be a 9/11 gatekeeper, and the more I look into him, the more obvious it's becoming. When What really stood out to me was when I was watching a podcast he did with Jesse Ventura, and he keeps attempting to redirect away from 9/11. He sets the whole thing up by making fun of conspiracy theorists, and then when Jesse Ventura wants to get into 9/11, he uses a well-known tactic to avoid talking about it. So I'm going to get into that one. I'm going to show a few other interviews that Joe Rogan's had regarding 9/11, and I think you'll realize that Joe Rogan is a 9/11 gatekeeper. He was also on Alex Jones' show on 9/11, saying that it can't possibly be the terrorists or whatever. I mean, it can't possibly be some sort of inside job. So anyway, here we go. Here's some clips.
Yep.
You're also a conspiracy theorist, which scares the shit out of them, right?
Well, but let's remember they did a huge study in England and found that conspiracy theorists are generally more intelligent.
Oh, you got to meet some of my friends.
No, they're more intelligent.
I'll throw a fucking monkey wrench right into that study.
Because they don't accept things. They do their own personal studies before they bring up an opinion.
Right, but then there's some flat Earth people and chemtrail people, and there's some wacky shit that gets thrown into the mix there too.
Yeah,
Dinosaurs aren't real.
Yeah, but I'll tell you something. As crazy as some of them sound, sometimes after a few years go by, you start thinking, they might be right.
What do you think about people landing on the moon?
I think we were there.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely I do.
Do you think any of the footage is fake?
I'd like to not believe it is. Knowing all that,
Yeah.
you also ought to include the murder of John Kennedy.
Yeah. Well,
Because I don't buy
I don't either.
at all
At all.
what they've told us. And let's bring in 9/11.
Well, the murder of John Kennedy to me is, first of all, there's so many aspects of it that people like to conveniently ignore, like the magic bullet. Not just the path, because bullets take crazy paths. I'm sure you know that.
And let's bring in 9/11.
Well, the murder of John Kennedy to me is, first of all, there's so many. What's interesting to me about this story too.
Anyway, though, enough of Kennedy.
But I just want one thing:
yeah.
is that it shows how uncomfortable people are with embracing the possibility. Oh, okay, you're Superman, right?
Yeah. Anyway, no. What was that?
Does your wife call you
now?
Superman or Jesse?
She calls me honey usually.
Oh, that's sweet.
After 41 years, at least she's not swearing at me.
There you go. Good job. You've done something right.
Anyway, you lost my train of thought
Sorry.
now where I
Sorry.
was heading to. I forgot where I was going. Anyway,
I
big deal.
don't remember anyway.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Just
What?
like most people think that 9/11 wasn't an inside job. Most people believe that Tower 7 fell because of fires because the government told them. I mean, that's scary shit, man.
It is,
You know
but
what I mean?
what if 9/11 wasn't an inside job? I've been spending all this time thinking it was. What if it was just a bunch of incompetent people, a bunch of people the amount of people that had to be involved
Dude,
to make it a conspiracy would be pretty big, right?
Yeah,
Would it be more likely that there's a bunch of fucking idiots running the government, which we've always known are true, than to have this one mastermind stroke of genius?
No, not at all. When you look at the evidence, I mean, when the 9/11
I feel like we shouldn't
commissioner,
have gone down this road.
when the 9 explosives, they go, no, we didn't check for explosives. There was no witnesses that said they heard explosions. And there was
You just
a
said that.
shitload.
Yeah, I get it.
I got to repeat it. When you look at that, what does that tell you? What it tells you is they're fucking gangsters, man. They're fucking lying. They're gangsters. It's really simple.
It's possible they're gangsters. It's also possible that they're retarded. It's also possible that they're trying to figure out a way to explain something that they just did a really shitty job explaining in the
Man,
past.
there's so
I'm
much
not an
shit,
architect.
yeah. There's so
I'm not
much
an
shit out
architect.
there.
I'm not an engineer. I don't understand how buildings what they need to stay up.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell. Aliens.
Saudi Arabia. First, I want to say. I love this country. I love the United
This is
States.
Memorial Day. How dare you, Eddie Bravo?
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
Aliens. someone conspired to fly planes into buildings, and whether or not the United States government was involved or whether or not it was these 19 guys from Saudi Arabia, they pulled that off. Conspiracies exist.
But something like 35% of Americans believe that the U.S. had some hand in that conspiracy.
Is it really that high?
That we let it happen. And 16% think that we engineered it.
I hate those things,
So
though.
that day, right? So how is it that you sold your stock in American Airlines the day before an American Airlines jet flew into a building? Right? How did that's fishy, right?
Well, the real problem is you find other people buy and sell those stocks every day.
Yeah, exactly. So there are uncountable number of things like that. But if you're only looking for anomalies and you're not constrained by any overall thesis to 60 Minutes, and yet this whole thing was designed to leave George Bush reading My Pet Goat at the moment it all kicked off. It's just not. It's like it's this the marriage of perfectly competent diabolical intelligence with the most inept. So all these people conspired perfectly, and yet the Iraq War was launched as ineptly as it could possibly have been.
Well, I certainly don't believe that the United States was involved in conspiring. I think there's some question that maybe some people might have known about it. The real issue comes when you find out about actual real false flags, real false flag events.
I'm sure you've seen the BBC reporter who is speaking on camera, and World Trade Center 7 is behind her, and she says, World Trade Center 7 has just fallen. It has fallen. It is the third building, and it's still standing. And 10 minutes later, Joe, the building fell.
Yeah, there's a lot of chaos that goes along with any catastrophic situation like that. And I think a lot of people are scrambling, and there's a lot of miscommunication. And I bet a lot of people were probably saying, if in fact it did collapse on its own, the firemen were aware, I bet a lot of people were saying, hey, this thing is going to go. It's going to fall into itself. I don't know if that's possible. See, again, I'm not an architect, but maybe it's just such a crappy design that when it catches on fire, it just collapses like that.
But fire has never turned concrete into rubble in the history of the world, right?
It does seem ridiculous,
Yeah.
but I'm not smart enough to. I mean, I don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd be completely stepping out of school if I was arguing that it's impossible for a building to do that. And the idea of it, they all uniformly gave out.